Okay. Shh. We're going to jump in. If you want to go with me in your textbook, we're moving to the piece on cranial nerves. Now I realize that I'm skipping over this first piece here, basal nuclei to cerebellum. We will do some time with it. There's just not enough time today for us to get through all of that. So I wanted to skip over to the cranial nerves is what I want to spend. We've got about, again, 20 minutes here. We can do that without any difficulty. Okay? Shh. I am recording this, so I'll let you be appropriately quiet. So, there are 12 cranial nerves. Now let me pause first. What is a cranial nerve? With a raised hand. Anybody tell me what is a cranial nerve? Or perhaps what's the difference between a cranial nerve and just a regular old spinal nerve? Cranial is in your brain. Okay. Though the spinal nerves come from your brain too. So spinal nerves connect to the brain, but where do they connect to first? They connect to the underside of the brain. Okay. Most of the nerves in your body come from the brain and come out of the brain where? The brain stem into the spinal cord, right? That's what most nerves do. All the nerves that control the muscles of your hands and your feet and your insides, that's how they work. They come from the brain into the spinal cord. Spinal cord then sends them out to different places. Those are spinal nerves from the spinal cord. But cranial nerves, like you said, Janelle, come from the brain itself, come from that underside. We're looking up at the bottom of the brain in this picture on the board. And there are 12 cranial nerves. And they come in pairs. So you can see that on each side, there's an olfactory. On each side, there's an optic, oculomotor, trochlear, etc. There are pairs of cranial nerves that go on each side, but 12 total. This table is on page 248, and that gives you oodles of details about these cranial nerves. I don't need you to know all those details. What I do need you to know are the details that are listed here on your cranial nerve section on your study guide. Okay? The names of them, you should know them all. The numbers, you should know them all. But the actual functions, all I need are for these, 7 that are there. Okay? But let's talk about them. Let's go through these 12. I'll put you back to the picture of them, because I think it's easiest to talk about them by the picture. So the first one we have is olfactory. Does anybody know what the olfactory cranial nerve does? What's its function? Smell. Okay? Do you remember, again, you have to use your brain visually to think. Here's the brain that's sitting in the cranium, right? So the bottom side of the brain is up against that inside part of the skull. You must be thinking back to those pictures of what's inside the skull. What structure was right here on that anterior portion of the inside of the skull? That was the name of the bone, sure. Now, the sphenoid would have been like somewhere around in here. I'm not talking about bone, but there was a structure that you had to learn that was right in the front. No, Soloturska would be down over here. The crista galli and the cribriform plate. Do you remember these things? Okay. These guys, these olfactory bulbs, sit right on top of those cribriform plates. Remember, the cribriform plate is little holes, right, in the bone? And these things literally send little roots, like little nerve roots, down into that bone and come through the other side. Do you know what's in the other side, right through that cribriform plate? Your nose. You're going to guess. Good. It's very, very solid. She's going to guess your nose. Exactly. Okay? So this sense of smell, this olfactory nerve, controls that. And it's because it's sitting literally right behind your nose. Are you with me, friends? And they call that the olfactory bulb, this little end swelling. And then you have the tract, the actual piece going into the brain, that long piece. So that's the olfactory nerve. Cranial nerve number 1. Cranial nerve number 2 is the optic nerve. What do you think the optic nerve does? Your vision, something, right? Optical vision, right? If we look at our actual definition here, it is sensory for vision, because vision is a very complex thing. But it's actually the sensing. So this would be the input signal. Are you with me? Taking the light, gathering it in the eye, transferring that information to the brain. The optic nerve does that. You can see, again, all of these have many more functions than just what I'm saying, okay? Or more detail is listed in the chart here. But it is the sensory fibers that transmit the impulses associated with vision, being able to see, okay? So sensory for vision is optic nerve. Number 3 is oculomotor. So just looking at the name of it, oculo meaning what? Like eyes, right? Seeing. And motor. So it's the motor part for vision. This is the part that controls how your eyes turn various places. The blinking aspects control, voluntary blinking. That's oculomotor. And again, what you need to know for that, number 3, oculomotor, motor for vision. Are you with me? Yes, ma'am. Right. Yeah. All you have to know is just a little phrase on the study guide. Motor for vision.
Just like my own curiosity, what's that?
Yeah. So these transmit the motor impulses that raise the eyelids, move the eyes, adjust the amount of light entering, and focusing the lens.
So then the other two that also listed as the eyes, they just work together?
Right. Those are also just, controlling how the eyes are tracking. This is more like the internal, how the eye works. And the other ones are more the muscles that move the eye different places. Yeah. Good question. So number 1 is what nerve? Because you need to know the numbers. 1 is olfactory. Number 2 is optic. Number 3 is oculomotor. And then number 4 we get is the trochlear nerve, showing you that on the brain itself. Trochlear is this guy hanging out right over here, right? Trochlear, so this little guy right there. Oculomotor is coming out here. Optic, by the way, I don't know if you see this or you can notice this on the picture, but the optic nerve crosses. So actually what you see with your left eye goes to the right part of your brain. What you see with your right eye goes to the left part of your brain. And they call that the optic chiasma, this crossing spot. So trochlear nerve, number 4. Trochlear is not one that you have to know the function for. You do need to know the name or the number. What is its function? What does it say? Yeah, so it's still a primarily motor, so it moving the eyes, and also some sensory associated with the condition of those same muscles. Okay? Most of these nerves you can break down into either sensory or motor, but a few of them are mixed. Have a little bit of both. Okay? Number 5 is trigeminal. Tri means what? 3. 3 different parts to this nerve. And they talk about the ophthalmic division, the maxillary division, the mandibular division. You don't have to know those. But are you comfortable? You can probably figure out where those things go. Ophthalmic is talking about eye, right? Optical, an ophthalmologist, right? Someone who deals with the eyes. The maxillary division, where's the maxilla? Upper jaw, right? Good. Where's the mandible? Lower jaw, right? So here's a nerve that splits into these three pieces to hit these three different areas. One to the eye, two to the parts around the face. And it is both sensory and motor for those pieces. Okay? Sensory for the face, sensory for the jaw itself, as well as some motor for the muscles of mastication, the chewing muscles. Okay? That's trigeminal. Again, trigeminal is not one you have to know. These numbers 4 through 6, you do not have to know their functions. Number 5 is what I just did, trigeminal. Number 6 is abducens. And that is one that moves the muscles of the eyes and some sensory impulses for those muscles. So here is trigeminal. This guy right here. Notice the 3 branches. Right? And then number 6 being abducens. These guys coming off the brain stem. This is really the first one that's coming off the brain stem proper. Yes, yes. No, it's not. Yep. All the ones you have to know there as far as functions. You have to know all of the names and numbers for all 12, but function is just the ones that are there. Okay? So that brings us to number 7. Number 7 nerve is the facial nerve. Facial is a mixed nerve that transmits sensory for the receptors in your tongue. Your tongue into your pot. Okay, that's facial nerve. And also the motor that transmits impulses to the facial expression muscles, tear glands, salivary glands. So for facial, on here what I'm asking you to do is sensory for tongue and motor for face. So this is one of the primary mixed nerves. It does both sensory and motor. Okay? Facial, number 7. Number 8, we go to vestibulocochlear. Anyone know what vestibular means? Sorry? Well, read this sentence here. Sensory fibers transmit impulses associated with a sense of equilibrium. What does that mean? Balance. Yeah. This is your ear using its structures to keep you balanced. We'll spend the next chapter, by the way, is on the senses and how they work. And we'll talk about this vestibulocochlear nerve and how the structures in the ear give you balance. So not only are they doing the balance portion, that's the vestibular branch, but the cochlear branch, does anyone know what the cochlea is? Yeah, it looks like a seashell, or like a snail shell. And that's what actually does your hearing. That's the part of the ear that actually transmits the vibrations, these little hairs that send the signal to your brain. So this one, the vestibulocochlear nerve, is going to your ears. Okay, that is number 8. And if you're looking on the sheet, vestibulocochlear, you should have sensory for hearing and balance. Number 9 cranial nerve is glossopharyngeal. Does anyone know what the glossus is? Glossus is your tongue. Yeah. How about what about pharyngeal? What is your pharynx? You're right, Eric. Yeah, the back of your throat. So what the glossopharyngeal is doing, it's a mixed nerve, sensory, that's transmitting impulses from the pharynx, the tonsils, the posterior tongue, and the carotid arteries, the arteries that take the blood to your brain. And it's also doing motor to help you swallow. This is not one you have to know for your list here. Number 9, that's glossopharyngeal. Number 10 is the vagus nerve. Does anyone know, do you have any words that you associate with vagus or that root, vega? Does anyone know? Unclear, like it's vague? Okay, I got you. That's good. Has anyone ever heard of a vagabond? What's a vagabond? Wanderer. That's exactly where this gets its room for. Vagus nerve, check this out, and this is crazy. Again, remember, this is a nerve that's coming. Here is the vagus nerve right here, number 10, right? This guy right there, coming right off the brainstem. This guy goes, check it out. Check where he goes. Vagus nerve is a mixed nerve. Somatic motor fibers transmit impulses to muscles associated with speech and swallowing. Autonomic, so remember, somatic means you can control them, right? Autonomic means you can't. Autonomic motor fibers transmit impulses to the heart from your brain directly? Yes. Heart, smooth muscles and glands in the thorax and the abdomen. So here's this nerve that goes all the way from your brain stem all the way down to your abdomen, but does not go through the spinal cord. Is that not kind of strange? All these other nerves, these cranial nerves, go like to the face, right? Face and head. And yet this guy wanders all the way down to the stomach. Hence the name vagus. And last but not least, it also does the sensory fibers that transmitting impulses from pharynx, larynx, esophagus, viscera of the thorax and abdomen. So this guy goes all over the place, even though he's a cranial nerve. What do you need to know? For your test, vagus is autonomic to the heart. That's the piece that I want to make sure you've gotten. It's what helps the brain control the heart. Number 11, you do not have to know. Number 11 is the accessory nerve, which is the cranial branch and the spinal branch. These are going motor primarily to the soft palate, your upper part of your mouth, pharynx, larynx, as well as some motor to actually the muscles in the neck and the back. Up again, this top part of your neck and back. And last but not least, number 12 is the hypoglossal. Hypoglossal. And the function of this guy is a motor to the tongue. So if you look on your piece, hypoglossal is motor for the tongue. Again, functions that are listed here are what you should know, not the big, huge, long ones listed in the textbook. How can you remember these things? This is what has been given time out of mind. On old Olympus's towering top, Finn, and I had to change it to von German viewed all hops. I didn't make this up. This has been around for hundreds of years, to be honest with you. To get the names of these, the first letters, right? It's one of those mnemonic kind of deals, right? So O, 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 T, T, A, F, V, G, V, A, G. It used to be a Finn and German, but that was what we used to call the vestibulocochlear, the auditory nerve. But now we know it doesn't just do hearing, it also does balance. Has those two pieces to it. If you search cranial nerve mnemonics, you'll find tons of other things. Okay? You can make up your own. It doesn't help, by the way, if Nick makes one up, everyone tries to learn Nick's. Oh, this cracks me up on tests when people try and do that. No, make up your own, or learn it ahead of time. Otherwise, you'll spend all your time trying to memorize the mnemonic and not actually get the, the actual nerves. Okay? So again, you must know the names, you must know the numbers, and then the functions of just the ones that I've mentioned. Obakabi? A lot of information in 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am?
If you take painkillers, does that affect the nerves, like the cranial nerves?
It would affect any of those, yeah. Depending on what kind of painkiller, but yeah, absolutely.
For like fibromyalgia.
Sure, yeah, it could.
Would that like mess up your cranial nerves?
It could, yeah, it could, depending on what they are, yeah. Okay, friends, have a good rest of the day.